I love indie games, and I find that it's always good to have a few ready to play in between those big AAA releases. Last year we had bangers like Dredge, Cocoon, Dave the Diver, Sea of Stars and more. And in 2024 it's no different, with a variety of great looking indie titles that should definitely be on your radar. So let's get on with the list then. Another crab's treasure is exactly why I love indie games. The developers get to be silly with their ideas and let their imaginations run wild, and you know, who wouldn't want a crab Souls-like game? You play as Krill, the hermit crab, in an undersea kingdom on the brink of collapse, on the hunt for your shell that was stolen from you. You'll be platforming around the levels as you explore and using the trash you find in a few different ways. Trash can be used as shells for defensive options, or it can be used as crafting materials for new weapons. Shells and swords at the ready, you'll use everything in your arsenal to take on big boss battles Souls-like style, so the combat will be challenging. But if you just want to play for the memes, there is assist options to lower the difficulty. I've been waiting for the Plucky Squire for ages. It's an action-adventure game where the main character Jot and his friends discover that they can leave the pages of the storybook that they live in and enter the 3D realm. So you'll be playing in loads of different perspectives as you go back and forth between 2D and 3D. It just looks super creative and charming, with loads of puzzles to solve, bosses to fight, and many nods to other gaming genres. Pacific Drive is an unusual survival game about a man and his station wagon. In the Pacific Northwest, there's a supernatural situation going on, and it's your job to investigate it. You'll be taking trips into the Olympic exclusion zone on a hunt for resources to upgrade your car, research anomalies, and try to outdrive the ever-present storm forcing you back to your garage. You're upgrading your car to take on all the challenges and roadblocks that stand in your way, like robot hitchhikers that will try to force you off the road and bandits that will steal your car if you leave it unattended for too long. And with the best upgrade materials on the most dangerous routes with otherworldly weather and terrain that makes driving a nightmare, you have to prepare accordingly. It seems like a fun time, and it has an interesting gameplay loop, almost roguelike in nature, plus the visuals are chef's kiss. One for the narrative fans, an atmospheric horror called Still Wakes the Deep. On an oil rig in the North Sea, something unnatural has come aboard, and with all lines of communication severed, it's up to you to find the rest of your crew and face this unknown horror. What's interesting about Still Wakes the Deep is that there is no combat, no weapons to find or superpowers to unlock. You're just an offshore oil rig worker caught in a horrific disaster. Some of you watching might have just lost all interest in the game for that reason, but for those of you who love narrative horror games, a story filled with eerie sound design, heart-pumping chase sequences, and claustrophobic corridors will be waiting for you. This next game is by a single developer by the name of Simon Fedholm. His game Robobeat is a roguelike rhythm shooter that plays at a blazing fast pace. Shoot, reload, parry, and dodge on the beat. Rhythm games are so satisfying, but I've always had a slight problem with them. The music has never been my cup of tea, unfortunately, but Robobeat solves that problem with the option to upload your own tracks. The aim of the game is to clear rooms as stylishly as you can in sync with the music. Once a room is clear, you'll get to choose an upgrade before you move on to the next room to do it all again. Very arcadey, I know, but I'm looking forward to finding a flow to my favorite songs. You thought Death Stranding was a walking simulator? Nah, let me show you an actual real walking simulator. This is Baby Steps from the creators of Ape Out and Getting Over It. In this game, you play as Nate, a bum trying to find the meaning of life by putting one foot in front of the other. You have fine control over Nate's legs on this journey. You're basically walking in manual mode, which basically means everything that you see is a puzzle. I know I'm gonna laugh and rage so much playing this game, I can't wait. Holstin is a survival horror game with a very nice pixel art style, but what caught my attention with this game is how the camera shifts perspective. You go from an isometric camera angle to an over-the-shoulder third-person shooter style, and I love this kind of innovation that you only see in indie games. Holstin takes place in a Polish town in 1992. Infection has taken over the environment and the residents living here, but your friend's last known location is somewhere here, so you've got to find him first before leaving. It seems that Holstin has taken a lot of inspiration from the likes of Resident Evil, so you'll constantly be on the search for ammo, health, puzzle pieces, keys, fighting off infected, and backtracking through the levels. If you like the look of Holstin but can't wait for it, there's a demo out now, or check out the game Signalis. It's an absolute banger pixel survival horror. Another game from a solo developer, and might be one to keep an eye on if you can't wait for the next Skate game. This is Skate Story, and I love the visuals in this game. The word that comes to mind is cosmic for the visuals, but it's actually less celestial and more hellish, since you play as a demon made of glass, and the devil himself has given you a skateboard and promised freedom once you do his bidding. I'm actually more excited for this than the next Skate game. It's got similar fine controls to Skate, but with its own quirks, a cool story to follow, and I'm digging the camera angles and overall presentation. If you're enjoying this, consider helping us out a little by 1, liking the video, and 2, hitting subscribe. Thank you. Now back to gaming. From skateboarding to bikes, Parcel Corps is giving me big Jet Set Radio vibes, but if you are an Uber Eats driver, you play a bike messenger in the vibrant town of New Ireland, riding around making deliveries as fast and stylish as possible, combining grinds, wall rides, manuals, and other tricks all all so that you can make a living. The movement is actually giving me some Sunset Overdrive's vibes as well, and I'm here for it. Plus, I haven't played a BMX game since Matt Hoffman Pro BMX back in the day. What if Hades was 33-player co-op? Well, you don't have to imagine it. New multiplayer action roguelike 33 Immortals is that. Each run, your team is divided on a map into squads. Each squad's goal is to take on torture chambers, which are dungeons filled with enemies, loot, and power-ups. Complete enough chambers as a team and you'll unleash God's wrath in the overworld, where things get dialed up to 11. If you survive God's wrath, you can ascend to the next area, but not before fighting a big boss raid style. I think 33 Immortals looks great, but I do hope there's good progression systems and a variety in the levels. Sticking with the theme of multiplayer roguelikes, if you're a fan of indie game Hyperlight Drifter, you'll be pleased to hear that developers Heart Machine is expanding the universe in the upcoming open world roguelike Hyperlight Breaker. This game is all about venturing into the colourful, procedurally generated open world on a hunt for bosses who are scattered around the world's different biomes. The combat looks impressive and it seems to pack a punch. There's a variety of melee and ranged weapons that can all be upgraded with materials that you find in the world and farm from enemies. Exploring the world is made easy and fun with parkour, gliders, and hoverboards. This next game is probably one of my most anticipated games for 2024, indie game or otherwise. The developers of the Ori game's next project is an ARPG called No Rest for the Wicked, and it is right up my street. Big Soulsborne influence here, so expect a challenge. Developers Moon Studios have kept information about No Rest for the Wicked quiet for now, but it seems like there's multiple classes, different weapons, loads of loot, crafting, and cooking. I can't wait to hear more about this game. The combat looks weighty and the art style is sick. An ode to classic survival horror games like Resident Evil and Silent Hill. In Post-Trauma, you play a middle-aged train conductor named Roman, who's found himself trapped in a nightmarish reality. His task is to navigate the hellscape around him and solve the mystery of what's going on and make his way back to his family. I can't remember the last time I played a game with fixed camera angles, but there's something nostalgic about it and it's great to see it here in Post-Trauma. And it's on Unreal Engine 5, so it looks really nice too. I think you know what sort of gameplay comes along with survival horror now, because this is the third one on this list, but Post-Trauma seems to have a stronger emphasis on puzzle solving. This game is just dripping with style. Acid Trip Sniper Elite. Children of the Sun is all about making your one-shot count as you redirect and curve your singular bullet wanted style to take out groups of enemies. These enemies are part of a cult that you've escaped from, and this is how you're seeking revenge. Trippy visual gore aside, Children of the Sun at its core is a puzzle game, and you'll have to be strategic about where you take your shot from and figure out the best path to guide your shot. Pepper Grinder is a 2D action platformer where the main character Pepper uses her super-powered grinding drill to burrow through the earth and shred anyone who stands in her way as she makes her way to recovering her lost treasure. This is one of those games that just seems perfect for the Nintendo Switch or Steam Deck. Play it for an hour before bed or on your commute to work. I do love a retro futuristic aesthetic. In Replaced, you play as an AI trapped in a human body against its will. It's a 2.5D pixel art action platformer set in an alternative America in the 1980s. Not many gameplay details have been shared about Replaced, but their website says that Replaced combines cinematic platforming, free-flow action combat with a deep, engaging dystopian story. I just like the visuals in this one. It's giving me Blade Runner vibes. Rotwood shares that same cute but violent style that Cult of the Lamb has. It's a 1 to 4 player co-op dungeon crawler where you and your team explore as far as you can in search of the toughest enemies. Did I mention that this is a roguelike? Yes, another roguelike to the list. Is that a thing? Is there too many roguelikes in the indie space? You let me know. Anyways, roguelike, so this is one of those games where you're gonna die a lot, but you get to keep your loot and materials that you found along the way to upgrade your base so that you can craft new weapons, armor, and abilities. I know there's already a handful of roguelikes on this list, but this is the roguelike of roguelikes, sequel to one of my favorite games, Hades 2. This time around, we play as Zagreus' sister, princess of the underworld Melanoi, as she hunts down the time titan Kronos. Hades 2 will feature all new locations, new gods helping you along the way with new boons, a new upgrade system, and of course, a story that unfolds each time that you die. If you haven't played the first game, immediately go and download it. Trust me, you won't regret it. Did you know that the developers of Power World have an upcoming Metroidvania game? Yes, I know what you're thinking. This looks oddly familiar and similar to another Metroidvania game, but this one is called Nevergrave, The Witch and the Curse, and it's actually a co-op Metroidvania and and roguelike where you and your friends possess creatures in the world to gain new abilities, platform and take on boss battles. You'll also be rebuilding your home base where you can farm, cook and upgrade stuff. It looks decent and it might be worth playing while you wait around for you know what. This is the you know what right here. Hollow Knight is one of my favorite games, and when I first heard that they were releasing a sequel, I was so excited, but that was 5 years ago. The wait for Hollow Knight Silksong has been excruciating, but I respect and understand that the developers team Cherry are a 3-man team and everything in the game is hand drawn and there's so much attention to detail in the game, and it's, yeah, I believe that 2024 is the year we're finally gonna get this game though. But if not, the other 19 indie games on this list should keep you busy until then. That was 20 indie games that should be on your radar in 2024. Let me know which ones are your top 3. My name is Durrani of 100% Crit, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.